I think, again, a lot of it varies according to the size of the organization, how much they have invested. I think that in the next 5 years, the reality of the situation is that companies are going to be pursuing a hybrid model. Larger companies are going to be pursuing a hybrid model, which involves kind of a staged adoption of the cloud rather than a throw everything out and start over kind of model. And I think the companies that are smartest in managing the transition, which is going to be a multiple-year transition, I think will do the best. I think the significance of that kind of announcement, and I think Los Angeles is particularly noteworthy simply because of the size of its operation, is that, and this is particularly true for governmental type organizations, which are obviously under extreme budget pressure, particularly these days, and particularly in California, is that this new model can fairly dramatically reduce your out-of-pocket upfront expenses in running the kind of, even the kind of very basic applications that organizations depend on. So, something like Google Apps, you can begin to move to and not have to worry about, the attendant investments in storage and in bandwidth and so forth. And it really provides, I think, a way to quickly reduce costs while also getting on a path that allows you to be sure that you will always have a kind of modern computing environment that embraces the best things out there. One of beyond the cost savings of this type of thing is you suddenly free yourself from having to worry about the upgrade path and when you need to move to a new version and all of those types of questions, because those fall onto the supplier's shoulders, and because of the fierce competition that we're going to see, that we already see between Google and Microsoft and IBM and others, you can pretty much rest assured that your capabilities are going to progress at a quite fast pace without you having to worry about all the decisions and investments that have traditionally gone on with modernizing an IT plant. The fact of the matter is that young people coming into the profession today, and young people coming into organizations in general today as new employees, take the cloud for granted. I mean, I don't even think they think about it as a different model. Because if you look at how particularly young people use their computers today, most of it happens in the cloud through, I mentioned Facebook, but if you look at any of the social networking services, you see that. You see all sorts of applications and data storage being based in the cloud. And really, these people don't go out and buy software anymore. They fire up their browser and look to the cloud. And so I think, one of the challenges for people who grew up, like myself, in a earlier IT environment is simply being open, simply understanding the new environment of computing and not being a barrier to adoption. Now, having said that, I think that people with more perspective also have the valuable personal asset of knowing that the cloud as it exists today doesn't necessarily fulfill all corporate or other organizational requirements for things like security, control, data privacy, things that actually in many cases are not only essential to a business but also have legal requirements attached to them. So I think people who have been in the field for longer, assuming that they're open and follow the new capabilities that the cloud allows, can bring a very valuable perspective and can very much help organizations make smart decisions and move in a smart way to this new model of computing. I think for somebody coming into the field right now, they really have to, in thinking about their own capabilities and thinking about what's going to make them valuable to organizations, they really do have to look ahead and think about how certain capabilities, certain assets, and certain jobs are going to move from where they used to be, which is in individual organizations maintaining their own IT assets and operations, into the cloud. And so a lot of people moving into the field are going to have to think about whether they focus on joining a supply type of organization, joining a Google, for instance, or another cloud kind of company, versus joining the user side organization. And if they are moving into the user side organization, I think they have to focus on the fact that some of the traditional skills and jobs that were there in the past are not necessarily going to be there in the future, and they have to make sure that they establish their skills in their career path to take into account the shifting role of IT departments as more and more traditional functions move into the cloud. I agree with it to some extent. I think we have to remember that there are core technological skills that are going to continue to be valued, both on the supply side and on the user side, into the future. And it's certainly not all going to be people thinking great blue sky creative thoughts about things. There are really important skills, whether on the software side or on the hardware engineering side, that are still going to be valuable. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that creativity is going to be everything in the future. I do think that the ability to think in innovative ways about some new models of doing computing and new models of managing information and of collaborating are certainly going to become more and more important in the future. But there will still be opportunities for the great technological thinker as well as the great creative thinker. What I hope to do is kind of step back from the immediate hype about the cloud and look at what the real underlying drivers are. Why is this happening? Why is it happening now? Because, obviously, and particularly people who are in the audience who have been in the field for a number of years know that we've been talking about the cloud in one form or another, utility computing, even all the way back to time sharing, for many, many years, for decades, in fact. And so one of the things I hope to do is to step back and try to explain why this is happening now and why companies and other organizations really have to be on top of this shift, and then also look at some practical ways that you can that organizations of all sizes and all types can begin to gain some of the benefits of the cloud while avoiding, the risks